Hey, South Africa, and welcome back to my channel, Chat South Africa with Pammy T. Well, there's never a dull day in South Africa. Today we woke up to the news that members and delegates from Afriforum had a meeting at the White House. Let's take a listen.
This was a bolt from the blue. We had known that there were plans for Afriforum and its affiliated organisations to send a delegation here, but neither the White House nor the visiting South Africans provided any advance information about their presence in Washington, D.C., and we still do not know precisely who they met. It's clear they entered the White House on Tuesday from pictures of the four men on social media standing right outside the main guest entrance to the building on Pennsylvania Avenue, all of them wearing visitor passes needed to enter the building. In a statement, they called their encounter with Trump officials historic, and they expressed their thanks for the president's decision to, in their words, highlight the human rights violations against Afrikaners, the ANC's reckless policies and poor governance in South Africa. They say they presented Trump officials with a document called the Washington Memorandum. It calls on the United States government to intensify pressure on President Ramaphosa and other ANC leaders. But the delegation argues that pressure campaign should not include efforts to revoke South Africa's crucial trading privileges under AGOA that some Republicans on Capitol Hill support suspending. The Expropriation Act, of course, was at the centre of conversations, and the document presented to Trump officials contains details of what the delegation called the wide scope of discriminatory racial legislation in South Africa. Dr. Dirk Herman of Solidarity insisted the current rupture in US-South Africa relations is not just a minor diplomatic understanding, but a diplomatic crisis that he says has been caused by the ANC. From the White House itself, there was no news of the delegation's impact on President Trump's determination to continue punishing South Africa. He has already received a letter from 4 Republicans on Capitol Hill urging him to consider suspending diplomatic relations between the two countries. Well, there's no question that this group, representing many of South Africa's white farmers, have stolen a march on government. It's been days now since the presidency announced plans for a government delegation to travel here to Washington, D.C. in a bid to explain the details of the Expropriation Act to President Trump and his top officials, and to push back on the president's false claims that expropriation of white farmers without compensation is already taking place in South Africa. But that government delegation has not materialised here. Indeed, reports last week indicated that the South African embassy here and Durco in Pretoria were finding it very difficult to make contact with Trump insiders. The mere fact that this delegation was able to travel to Washington, access the White House, and meet with figures from the Trump administration reflects the fact that powerful figures who oppose South Africa's government continue to have access to President Trump's ear. No meeting with the South African delegation was included on the president's publicly distributed schedule, and reporters have no access to transparency over Elon Musk's daily activities. But whether the delegation met with them or with lower-level officials in the White House, they still beat government to the punch. And that is likely only to put additional pressure on the presidency to take action quickly in an effort to get government's side of the story in front of America's president.
Wow, that's interesting. But let's take a listen to what Afriforum representative and part of the delegation team had to say about the visit to the White House.
Goeiedag aan al Afriforum se lede, ondersteuners en almal wat hierna kyk. Ons het pas 'n baie konstruktiewe vergadering gehad met senior lede van president Trump se administrasie hier by die Whitehouse. Afriforum, die solidariteit beweging sowel as solidariteit was deel van hierdie vergadering. Ons het in die eerste plek ons dank uitgespreek teenoor die Trump administrasie dat hulle die krisisse in Suid-Afrika erken en die goed wat skeefloop daar erken, maar ook dat hulle erkenning gee aan Afrikaners en dat hulle ook bereid is om Afrikaners te help. Ons is dankbaar daarvoor en ons het seker gemaak dat hulle dit baie duidelik weet. In die tweede plek het ons gevra dat daar baie sterk druk op ANC leiers geplaas moet word, eerder as om gewone mense in die land te straf. Ons glo hulle moet kyk na individuele aksies of strafmaatreëls teen ANC leiers, eerder as om weg te stap van AGOA, en dit moet druk toepas sodat die ANC leiers afstand doen van die Bella-wet wat Afrikaners se kulturele voortbestaan bedreig, maar ook Afrikaanssprekende se kulturele voortbestaan bedreig, want dit val ons skole aan, dat daar gekyk moet word dat die onteieningswet geskraap moet word, dat rassewetgewing uitgefaseer moet word, dat haatspraak teenoor Afrikaners, hierdie mense wat sê boere moet geskiet word, dat daar sterk teen hulle opgetree moet word. Daardie boodskap het ons baie duidelik aan hulle uitgestuur, en dan het ons ook gevra spesifiek dat daar druk op die Suid-Afrikaanse regering moet wees om te sorg dat daar 'n kulturele akkoord met Afrikaners aangegaan word, sodat ons en ons nageslag blywend vry, veilig en voorspoedig aan die suidpunt van Afrika kan voortbestaan. Ons het ook 'n verslag van advokaat Gerry Nel oorhandig, waarin ons baie duidelik uitwys dat mense wat deur die Zondo-kommissie geïmpliseer is, dat hulle net skotvry daarvan afkom. En die FSA het maatreëls soos Magnitsky-wetgewing waar hulle kan optree teen korrupte individue. En ons gaan die druk volhou. Baie dankie vir julle ondersteuning. Dit is julle wat dit vir ons moontlik maak om plaaslik in Suid-Afrika, maar ook hier in Washington te veg vir Afrikaners se toekoms. Mooi bly.
Wow, really seems like we're living in interesting times, right? I'm really looking forward to seeing what Donald Trump's next move towards South Africa is going to be. Or better yet, I'm looking forward to seeing how Cyril Ramaphosa, President of South Africa, is going to respond to this one.